For decades, our gaze has been fixed upon the stars. We haven't just been hunting for exoplanets or listening for radio signals. We've been looking for anomalies. We look for those rare, fleeting moments when the cosmos refuses to follow its own laws. And now, it appears the James Webb Space Telescope may have finally found one. What started as a standard survey of the third interstellar visitor ever recorded in our solar system, an object named 3 Atlas, has evolved into something far stranger, far darker, and infinitely more significant. Deep in the freezing void beyond Mars, the Webb detected something impossible. Not just reflected light, but artificial light. A glow that behaves unlike any comet or asteroid we have ever seen. A signature that defies the known physics of reflection and refraction. Now, astronomers and astrophysicists are facing a single question that sends shivers down their spines. What is 3 Atlas? Stay with us as we analyze the data that has just reignited the oldest, most terrifying question in human history. Are we alone? 3 Atlas was first identified as a faint speck skirting the edge of the solar system, following a trajectory that no local object could physically maintain. It was undeniably interstellar, born outside the gravitational grip of our sun, hurled across the galaxy by some unknown event, and now drifting silently through our cosmic neighborhood. Initially, it was dismissed as a curiosity, much like its predecessors, Oumuamua and Borisov. But even in the preliminary images, something felt wrong. Unlike most interstellar travelers, 3 Atlas was unnaturally bright, and not in a way that made sense. Its magnitude didn't match its estimated size or composition. It shimmered with an eerie consistency. Its brightness neither faded as predicted nor flared with any evidence of outgassing or dust release. Traditional comets tend to brighten in violent bursts as ice sublimates, but this object remained steady, as if it were powered from within. Telescopes around the world turned to track it, and the Webb, with its unmatched capability to peer into the infrared, was tasked with decoding the mystery. But what it saw changed everything. The James Webb Space Telescope, hovering 1,000,000 miles from Earth at the Lagrange point, was built to reveal the unseen, to cut through stellar glare and expose what hides in the shadows. Its observation of 3 Atlas was supposed to clear up the confusion. Instead, it amplified it. The telescope's sensors picked up a centralized thermal emission that had no correlation to the natural reflection of sunlight. Typically, a comet shines because the sun's rays bounce off ice and dust. But 3 Atlas displayed an internal heat signature, energy radiating from the core outward. This wasn't scattered light, it was emitted light. Furthermore, thermal mapping unveiled a pattern that adhered to no known distribution curve for natural objects. It pulsed faintly, irregularly, and most disturbingly, it seemed to cycle. That subtle, repeating rhythm suggested not randomness, but design. Scientists at NASA and the European Space Agency initially floated exotic theories: radioactive decay, subsurface friction, or alien isotopes. But as the data poured in, those theories crumbled. The only consistent explanation remaining was the one nobody wanted to put in writing. This object might be powered. As information from Webb, Hubble, and ground-based observatories accumulated, a profile of 3 Atlas began to take shape, and it resembled no celestial body we have ever known. Its trajectory was too precise to be chaotic, as if it were selecting its path, making subtle adjustments through gravity wells. Its rotation was unnaturally stable, featuring a tumbling motion that defied standard inertial drift. Its lack of a cometary tail, even when passing near solar radiation, hinted at a shell or casing, perhaps something shielding it from the heat. Then came the most controversial finding. The albedo, or surface reflectivity, was measured to be nearly perfect in certain areas, approaching that of polished metal. Not rock, not ice, not dust, metal. The implications sent a shockwave through the astronomical community. If it was metallic, structured, and emitting energy, we were no longer looking at a natural object. We were looking at technology. Suddenly, words like probe, beacon, craft, and even artifact were being whispered in hallways. The notion that this could be an alien spacecraft was no longer restricted to conspiracy forums. It was quietly circulating in institutional emails behind encrypted firewalls. Perhaps the most damning evidence wasn't the heat, the trajectory, or the strange metallic composition. It was the light itself. Photometric analysis revealed something chilling. The light emanating from 3 Atlas was focused in a narrow spectral band. In other words, this wasn't a broad, natural reflection of the sun, but a controlled emission of specific wavelengths. This is exactly how we utilize LED arrays, laser communication systems, and spacecraft beacons. Moreover, this band included frequencies frequently used in communication and guidance systems here on Earth. Not only that, but the light's intensity seemed to react ever so slightly to solar radiation, as if an onboard system were adjusting in real time. It didn't flicker randomly. It pulsed with a strange, intermittent rhythm. Astronomers ran this data through known signal models. The results were inconclusive, but far from meaningless. Some claimed the pulses looked like binary sequences. Others suggested a rotating power source. But the conclusion was undeniable. This was not a passive object. It was doing something deliberate, and we were watching it happen live. As the data flooded in, a team of astrophysicists from MIT and Harvard performed a deep signal analysis on the electromagnetic emissions. At first glance, the frequencies appeared to be random noise scattered across the spectrum. But when they applied Fourier transforms to isolate cyclical patterns, something materialized. Hidden within the static, buried like a whisper beneath the chaos, was a structured, repeating pulse too precise to be natural. It wasn't standard binary, nor was it a modulation typical of human technology, but it bore the unmistakable fingerprint of intentional encoding. Some speculated it was a beacon, a repeating broadcast meant for receivers not of earthly origin. Others theorized it was telemetry, a constant stream of data being sent back to wherever this object came from. The unsettling part was this. Whatever the message was, it hadn't changed since Webb first spotted it. It was as if 3 Atlas wasn't trying to talk to us, but to someone else, and perhaps that someone had already heard it. News of the discovery moved fast through the highest levels of scientific and defense institutions. A confidential report, circulated internally at NASA and later leaked to an anonymous journalist, revealed that top officials were already coordinating with global space agencies to assess whether 3 Atlas posed a threat. Some scientists argued it was benign, an ancient probe, perhaps centuries old, following a pre-programmed route through the stars. Others were less optimistic. They raised questions no one could answer. If it is transmitting, who is receiving? If it emits light, does it also possess propulsion? If it is here by design, why now? The report even mentioned the remote possibility that 3 Atlas was not just passing through, but observing, tracking planetary alignments, electromagnetic fields, or even advanced civilizations. This possibility ignited panic behind the scenes. Because if this object isn't alone, then something else might be on the way, something that sent it. Further investigation into the luminosity of 3 Atlas led to a revolutionary hypothesis. The object wasn't just emitting energy, it was harvesting it. The way the object's light output fluctuated based on its distance from the sun, combined with the apparent lack of chemical reactions, supported the theory that it utilized a solar collection array or photonic absorption system beneath its surface. A group of theorists postulated that the dust cloud surrounding the object served a dual purpose: camouflage to mask its artificial structure and a medium to absorb solar radiation. If true, this suggests 3 Atlas is a self-sustaining craft designed to travel indefinitely through deep space, refueling as it hops from star to star. This concept aligns perfectly with theoretical models of interstellar probes, machines that remain dormant for centuries, activating only when they reach a star system worth investigating. And if our solar system triggered that activation, then the message has been received. As international agencies scrambled for answers, one truth became increasingly clear: we are not ready. Despite decades of speculation regarding extraterrestrial contact, our political, scientific, and philosophical systems are woefully unequipped to process what 3 Atlas might represent. No official statements were made, yet internal documents leaked from agencies in France, Japan, and Brazil all hinted at the same conclusion. This object might not just be an anomaly, but a first encounter unfolding in slow motion. Unlike what Hollywood taught us, there was no landing, no sudden shadow over the sky, no immediate answers. Only data, only light, only silence. The web continues to watch the object daily, yet every answer it provides seems to spawn 2 new questions. If this is contact, it is contact on their terms, not ours. Quiet, distant, and unsettling. And that may be the most terrifying aspect of all, because what we are witnessing may not be an invitation. It may be surveillance, and we may have already been seen. Just when astronomers thought 3 Atlas had settled into a predictable path, the unexpected happened. Its luminosity spiked dramatically. This wasn't a gradual increase due to proximity to the sun. It was a sudden flare captured in real time by the James Webb and confirmed by ground-based observatories. The object's brightness surged by nearly 40% in under 2 minutes, then stabilized at a new, higher level. No natural explanation fit the data. No solar-wind interaction. No impact. No disintegration. It was as if someone had flipped a switch. The flare wasn't just visual. It brought a change in the object's thermal signature, almost as if systems had powered up. Theorists proposed the chilling possibility that the object had entered an awakened phase, triggered either by the sun or by our own observations. And if this flare was an intentional act, then it was meant to be seen. Shortly after this anomalous brightening, orbital calculations detected something else. 3 Atlas was no longer following its projected path. It had shifted, subtly but measurably. Gravity alone couldn't account for the deviation. Even solar radiation pressure, often the scapegoat for small changes in lightweight objects, didn't add up. This shift was deliberate. Even more unsettling was where the new trajectory pointed, deeper into the solar system, with an inclination adjusted to bring it closer to the plane of Earth's orbit. The object was no longer just passing through. It had, in effect, changed lanes. Some scientists urged restraint, calling it a gravitational anomaly. But others saw the shift for what it was, a maneuver, a course correction that no comet or rock has ever made. If 3 Atlas is capable of even limited propulsion or navigation, it means we aren't observing a relic. We are watching a vessel in motion, a vessel with intent. As the object passed within range of spectroscopic instruments on Webb and Hubble, scientists detected elements that raised even more red flags. They found traces of highly reflective alloys, rare Earth elements, and most shockingly, spectral absorption lines resembling compounds never before cataloged in our periodic table. These were not materials you find in a frozen chunk of interstellar rock. They were engineered, or, at the very least, synthesized under conditions unknown in nature. One spectral profile matched no known chemical process, but closely resembled theoretical compounds proposed in quantum material labs. Substances thought to exist only under intense magnetic fields or quantum confinement. This implies either unfathomable age, suggesting the object predates human civilization by millennia, or a highly advanced manufacture by civilization far beyond our own. The nature of the materials spoke louder than any signal. Even if we couldn't read the message, the messenger itself was unnatural. With evidence of a non-natural origin mounting, governments and agencies began to react, not publicly, but with unmistakable urgency. Encryption levels on observatory networks were tightened. Research teams were quietly reassigned. A sudden, unexplained surge in satellite recalibrations was noted on multiple continents. Spacefaring nations initiated discreet contingency discussions behind closed doors. One leaked document from an international defense consortium suggested that 3 Atlas might not be a lone visitor, but a scout. The object's unusual structure, stable rotation, and ability to remain operational across interstellar distances indicated a design consistent with long-term observation probes. But if it is scouting, what is it looking for? And more disturbingly, what comes next? Across universities, observatories, and military command centers, a terrifying consensus was forming. We are no longer alone in the universe, and first contact might not be a conversation. It might be an evaluation. As speculation reached a boiling point, a bold team at the SETI Institute decided to take a risk no one else would. They transmitted a focused radio pulse directly toward 3 Atlas. The message contained universal mathematical constants, the periodic table, and basic visual representations of humanity. It was a cosmic handshake, a cautious hello. Days passed, then a week. No response. But just when the experiment was about to be archived as another unanswered call into the dark, a monitoring station in Chile registered something strange. A narrow-band return pulse, off-frequency, distorted, but unmistakably timed to mirror the original message. It wasn't a reply in language. It wasn't an echo. It was a ping, a return signal with just enough variance to imply it wasn't a passive reflection. It had been processed, and it had been sent back. But what shook the SETI team the most wasn't the signal itself. It was the timing. The response arrived precisely 72 hours after transmission, to the second. It meant something had not only received our message, it had calculated the delay and answered deliberately. Following the return ping, observatories around the globe began experiencing technical anomalies. Webb's infrared instruments showed erratic thermal mapping for the first time since launch. Hubble's gyroscopic sensors registered microfluctuations despite a stable orientation. Ground-based telescopes suffered what were initially dismissed as software glitches, misaligned star charts, pixel distortions, and frozen data streams, occurring precisely when focused on 3 Atlas. But these glitches weren't random. They happened in synchronized windows, as if coordinated, as if someone or something didn't want us looking too closely. A theory emerged from a Black Ops think tank buried deep within the European Space Agency. The object wasn't just emitting signals. It was jamming us. It was interfering selectively. The implications were staggering. A passive visitor doesn't hide its identity. A scout does. If the object was actively managing what we could see, and when we could see it, then we weren't truly watching it. We were being allowed to. And then silence. Within days of the signal and the malfunctions, updates from Webb were delayed, restricted, and eventually rerouted. Public logs became inaccessible. The ESA released a vague statement about instrument recalibration. NASA simply stopped commenting. Even reputable journals that had covered 3 Atlas began retracting stories or publishing neutral summaries devoid of detail. The astrophysics community fractured. Some believed agencies were verifying the discovery before going public. Others suspected something darker, that the truth had been confirmed and was now being contained. The few remaining independent observatories tried to release raw data, but it was quickly drowned out by misinformation. What began as a global scientific mystery had become a strategic asset. And history shows us what happens when governments classify a discovery. Truth dies in silence. In a last-ditch effort to understand what they were seeing, a coalition of astronomers and mathematicians turned to pattern recognition and probability theory. They stopped looking for communication and started looking for proof of intent. That is when they discovered the most terrifying pattern of all. The object's path through the solar system, while seemingly natural, mirrored a Fibonacci arc when plotted against planetary positions, an ancient spiral of proportional beauty found throughout nature, and coincidentally, in many Earth-based communication protocols. Furthermore, the timing of its course corrections, the light flares, and even the ping response correlated with prime number sequences. The odds of this occurring naturally are astronomically low. These patterns were chosen. It meant 3 Atlas wasn't just drifting through the solar system. It was navigating with mathematical precision, as if following a map or a schedule. A few theorists now whispered the unthinkable. This might not be an interstellar probe. It might be an interstellar message, not made of sound or symbols, but of behavior. and we had just decoded the first word. As the dust of confusion settles, one truth remains impossible to ignore. 3 Atlas was never just a rock. From the unnatural light it emitted to the signal it returned, from the rare materials to the calculated change in trajectory, every piece of this enigma points to a single, uncomfortable conclusion. We have not been alone for a very long time, and perhaps we were never meant to know. The James Webb Telescope, built to witness the birth of galaxies, may have instead caught a glimpse of something designed to look back, something ancient, deliberate, and watching, not from the safety of a distant star, but from the threshold of our own backyard. And yet, silence reigns. The agencies refuse to speak. The data is withheld. The world, it seems, has been deemed not ready. But we saw the light. We tracked the path. And now we ask the question that terrifies even the most rational minds. What happens next? Was 3 Atlas simply passing through, cataloging our little world before continuing its voyage? Or was it merely the first of many? A probe leading the way for something greater, something waiting for a signal to move forward. In the end, it may not matter whether 3 Atlas was a machine or something else entirely. What matters is that it came, it saw, and it responded. And now, somewhere in the cold, endless dark, something may be turning its attention toward the blue planet that blinked first. The countdown may have already begun, and the universe once again reminds us, we are not the center. We are the observed. I'd love to hear what you think about this, so drop a comment below. If you enjoyed our conversation today, please share this video and subscribe to help the channel grow. Every bit of support counts.